All right, so moving on with our self-portrait projects, go ahead and go to Photos and pull up your photo and hit Edit. Now, I know yesterday we talked about adjusting the photo to black and white, but some people were having a hard time, so the easiest way to do this is to go to Saturation and bring that all the way down to -100, okay? So you could also put a black and white filter on it, but I like to do it this way because we're going to make a few more adjustments in a second here. All right, the next thing you're going to do is bottom left on the left-hand side. We're going to click that, and we have a ton of negative space, a bunch of empty space around the outside edges that we want to get rid of. So we're going to click and drag the corners of this box so that we have almost no negative space on the sides, okay? And then go ahead and hit done. Oops, actually I wasn't completely finished yet. Now, once we have that cropped down, we are going to go to contrast, which we actually talked about yesterday in the video. Remember that is a principle of art, and it's the difference between things. So if we're looking at a black and white image, if we up the contrast a bit, it's going to make the difference between the dark and light areas a little bit larger. Okay, so I'm going to up that a little bit. We don't want to go crazy and go way too far, but I'm going to do about 26 looks good. Okay, so once we're happy with our cropping and the black and white and the contrast, hit done, and that will save it. And now we're going to go ahead and pull it into Sketches School. Get my iPad to go the right way. I don't know why this doesn't want to turn for me. Here we go. All right, so now we can go ahead and go to the three dots, arrow down, photo, and select the photo that we just made our adjustments to. Now we do want to enlarge this so it's taking up the entire screen. So go ahead and enlarge that so it's filling it up and click the check mark. Okay? Now the first thing that we got to do is decide what color represents the emotion that you are posing for in your photograph. Okay? So what we're going to do is click in the bottom right, and all these different colors pop up, okay? Now, I'm using purple for mine because I'm thinking, and purple reminds me of that. So I'm going to click on purple, and actually, if I click and hold then, I can make some adjustments to this color to make it look exactly like the purple that I want to use for my drawing, okay? So I'm going to go a little bit more on the blue side, I think. So I'll adjust that to find the color that I want, and then I hit modify to save that color. All right? Now what we're going to be doing is we're using shapes to simplify and flatten your photograph here, because obviously we have a ton of variations of different values that make this look very three-dimensional. It's still going to look a bit three-dimensional. However, we want to simplify and flatten this image so that it's going to work for us. Okay, so I find the easiest way to do this is to use the paint roller tool. So now that I created my color, you're going to see that we have 5 different areas pop up. And it already creates these value steps for us, which is really nice. And we're going to start off with our number 1, which is going to represent our lightest values, okay? Now, one thing I want to do is I want to zoom in really close as I'm doing this, and all I'm doing is I'm going to trace and draw shapes, okay? We can leave that on. Now, you're going to see that you can see through that image, but eventually we're going to be deleting the photograph, and that's eventually just going to be in the background over this white background, so it's going to look pretty good, okay? So for all my number 1s, I'm just going to go through in all my lightest areas and create some shapes. Okay. Now, we are simplifying things, so make sure that we're getting rid of some of the tiny little details that we're going to have. So I'm just working my way through, and all the lightest areas, I'm creating some shapes. So I'm not making things up. I'm tracing the value areas that I already see. Okay, and you could get as detailed as you would like. That's totally up to you. Now, if you don't like working this way with the paint roller, there is another way of doing it, which I'll show you guys in just a little bit, but I want to just get these first couple shapes done in a second. All right, so I'm working my way through, and I would do all of my number one. So you could see that there's some areas on my glasses, there's some parts on my hand that are really light, and this part of my neck down here. So I would continue, get all my number ones, and remember, if you click this little eyeball in the corner, you could kind of see how these shapes are looking. Okay, now when I'm ready to start my number 5, I'll click the paint roller again and grab the darkest one, and this is going to be my number 5. So now I'm looking for my absolute darkest areas, and I will start to draw those in as well. So same idea, except I'm focused on the complete opposite value, which is going to be my number 5 this time. Okay, so working my way through, getting all my darkest areas. Anytime you're doing tiny little details, make sure you're zooming way in to get it nice and neat. And I will continue to get all my number 5s. Okay, now that's one way of doing it. If you would rather use some of the other tools to create your image, you could go with the pen tool. I like to make it nice and small on the side over here. And you could use this to draw your shape in. And that gives you a little bit more of a visual as to what it looks like, so then you could gradually make it larger. And then you could always come back with the paint roller and just click on the inside of that shape, and it will fill it in with the color, okay? Whichever one you find to be easier is totally up to you as you're working with those different values, okay? So for today, we're only doing 2 different values, which are gonna be your number 5, that's your darkest, and your number 1, which is your absolute lightest. Now, the example photograph that I attached is a different photo. I couldn't find the original. So this is a different photo from my example, but pretty close to the same thing that you're gonna find. You could also look at the student examples and see how other students have simplified this before to help you guys out. When you're finished doing the lightest and the darkest shapes, save your image and attach and turn it in to today's assignment. All right, have fun, and I will talk to you guys later.